So today we are going to look at the top 5 questions that women have about men dating in midlife, the stuff they want to ask and the stuff they want to find out. So I've got those 5 questions and I'm going to go through these questions and try to give you my answers, not just from a personal perspective, but of also guys in that age bracket that are dating as well. What I want you to bear in mind throughout all of this is that try to relate this not only to maybe the guy that it didn't work out for because he decided to do other things, try and relate it as well to the guy that you chose to walk away from because it wasn't right for you. Because sometimes we only ask these questions of the ones that we don't get and it didn't go our way. We don't ever rarely reflect and think, well, if it was going so well, why have I suddenly changed my mind? Okay, so it's, as always, it's a two-way street, but I'll try and answer these as best as I can because these are the top 5 questions that women want to know about men dating in midlife. So kicking off, do men know within the first few dates if they want a relationship with you? I'm going to say probably not. They will date you to start with to see where things go. And they probably don't know what they want on the first date. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I think you can approach dating a lot of the time with so much intensity when you get to your 40s and your 50s because you feel like the sands of time are escaping really quickly. And one, that's not always the case. But two, because you feel that way, you're then, I found, overanalyzing everything. And you're reading into things that you just didn't do when you were younger. Now, when we were younger dating, we never had time against us. It was, it wasn't even a concept time in your 20s and maybe your early 30s because you didn't think about it. You just went along with it. If you can approach dating in the same way in your 40s and your 50s, from what I found, it works so much better because you're not over analyzing anything. You're just going along with it. You're going on the date, having a good time. If they want to go again, you want to go again, you go on another date and have a good time. Now, obviously, after this goes on for a couple of months, you may start thinking, okay, well, where's this going? Now, if you're having a good time up until that point, you get to the decision of thinking, right, I can ask the question and maybe the good time I'm having is going to come to an end because they're going to go, well, actually, I don't want to go any further than this. But at the same time, the bonus side of that is that you get to find that you could be wasting your time. But people change their mind all the time. So you just kind of never know. So I think before you start dating and asking if other people are serious, work out what exactly you want. And when you're dating guys, date guys that are serious about wanting a relationship because some won't know, and that's not a problem. They might go, well, if you ask them the question, they might say, well, I don't know. Can we not just date and see where it goes? Now, for you, you might hear, well, listen, I'd love to jump into bed with you, roll around for a few weeks, and then after that, I might just move on. But at the same time, they could just be, I want to see where this goes. I don't want to overthink something because I've just come from a load of overthinking already. And I want to enjoy myself for a while. And I want to enjoy myself with you. But don't be afraid to ask questions at the beginning after you've had a couple of dates saying, okay, can I just ask, are we dating each other or are we also dating other people? Now, make sure you don't say, are you? Because what you need to imply as well is, listen, if you're doing it, I'm going to have the opportunity to do it as well. And I'm not going to tell you whether I am or if I'm not, but I want you to think I'm going to be doing it as well. Because that way you're not available. And you're saying to them, well, listen, If you're just going to see me, I'm going to just see you. But if you're not, I'm going to do exactly the same as you. So we'll both be doing our own thing. And as long as you're clear on that at the beginning, then you know where you stand straight away. Now, if the guy says to you, well, actually, I'm going to date other people as well as you, then you've got a decision to make. Do you go, well, actually, you're not for me then, and just cut it clean? Or do you go for a couple of weeks and see where it goes? But guys won't know within the first few dates necessarily, unless they fall head over heels for you in the first 2 or 3 dates. And then all this changes. And that's the great thing about dating. You can have all these rules set of what you're doing, but it just changes when you meet a person that just knocks your socks off. Because everything that you've done before goes out the window, because all of a sudden you want to see him again the next day or the next week, and you don't want them dating anyone else. You just want to date them. So this is all relative most of the time, unless you've got someone that is determined that they're just never having another relationship. But at the same time, I would still question that. I remember one of the podcasts that I spoke to uh, uh, Gemma, who was used to having open relationships, and she had an open relationship marriage for a long time. And my one thing with open relationships is that what happens when you meet that person? And I asked her this, and she said, well, that's exactly what happened. You meet someone that you want to know more about and intrigues you and excites things that maybe you haven't felt before in previous relationships. And all of a sudden, you find yourself wanting to spend more time with them and not the person that you're in the open relationship with. So I think all of these things, they all apply until you find someone that just really, you know, knocks your socks off and you get fireworks and you think, yeah, this is my guy, this is my girl, this is what I want. And everything else goes out the window. So that's the first question. The second one, why do men pull away when everything seems to be going so well? Now, the first thing that I would say is, was it going so well, or was it just for you it was going so well? Because sometimes we can think things are going great for us. We don't always know if the other person is receptacle to that as well, if they're feeling that same thing. So you in your own head can think, this is where we are, and then they're going to be looking at something completely different. And you don't always want to be asking someone if they're on the same page. And so it is very difficult to gauge that. Sometimes it could just be that moment of commitment. Like I said, if you're dating for 3 or 4 months and then you go, well, are we going to the next step? That could force the guy to then overthink it and go, whoa, hold on a minute. Well, I was having fun dating. Now, if you're talking about next steps, oh, well, I don't know if you're the right person for me then. So sometimes you can get an answer that maybe you wasn't expecting. So it could be the fact that something has scared him slightly and made him overanalyze or even analyze what you were both doing. Because in his head, he could be thinking, well, this is good. We go out, we have a good time. We've got our own lives. We see each other. Suits me down at the ground. That's all I want. And as soon as you go, well, what's the next step? That's when they can back away and probably think to themselves, I've got to be fair to who I'm seeing as well. It's not fair on the girl or on the guy to carry on leading them on when I don't want to go there. I'm wasting their time. I can't do that. And then they pull away. So that could be one of the reasons. Sometimes it can just be they suddenly start realizing that they're getting into something too quickly, especially if they've just come out of something that's been very serious, a long divorce, a long relationship. All of a sudden, they could just wake up one morning and think, oh, what am I doing? I don't know if I want to be doing this now. And it can change as quickly as that. And that is sometimes the frightening thing about dating. And I think that's always been the case. But like I said, when we're younger, we didn't worry about it too much. But when we're older, everything it seems more personable to us, and we take it far more personally. And then you start worrying, well, is it me? Am I not attractive anymore? Am I not in good shape? Do I, talk too much? Do I do this? And then you start questioning your own value, and you lose what you actually bring to the table. And if you can think about it in terms of, know what you're worth, you know, and just think of it sometimes as, if we don't match up, that's fine. You know, you go your way, I'll go mine. Great meeting you. Loved the 3 months that we had together. Take care. See you soon. Now, it gets a lot harder, I realize, when the months go to years, because then you do feel like you're wasting time. But one thing that I know from myself is that sometimes you just don't know, you can't see your change of feelings. Um, and I've experienced that from myself, and I've experienced it from someone else. And I've had conversations with them and gone, well, what's happened? What have I done? And they couldn't explain it. And they were like, you haven't done anything. It it's just I don't know. I just don't feel the way I did. Now there can always be external things going on that you don't know about. It could be someone else that suddenly popped up in their life from their past. It could be a new person that suddenly popped up in their life. And maybe nothing's going on with this person, but maybe what it's done is just opened a door in their mind that they're starting to just to look down and think, oh, I wouldn't mind exploring that. And then all of a sudden, the focus goes from what they're doing with you onto that new thing. And it can all be done subconsciously, but that just changes everything in their head slightly. And all of a sudden, they find themselves, you know, looking at this other door that's open more and more and pulling away from going forward with you. And that's very difficult for sometimes for them to explain, and people don't want to explain that to other people and say, listen, I've met someone else. I don't even know if they like me, but I'm attracted to them now. They don't want to upset people like that. So there can always be reasons going on in the background of why people pull away. I think the really important thing to remember is that they have. What the reason is doesn't really matter unless it's something that can help you, unless it's, you're too suffocating, or, you're too demanding, or you're too jealous. If it's something that maybe is something that you'd need to know for yourself to work on. But if you ask that question and just say, listen, if that's your decision, fine, but can you just tell me for my own growth, is it something that I do? And if they go no, and they think yes because they don't want to tell you, you can't do anything more. But if they let you know, maybe it's something you can think about. Maybe you'll agree with them. Maybe you won't. Maybe it'll be that thing that you go, well, actually, sod you, you best go. I don't want to be with you anyway. But a lot of the time, I think just focus on the main point is that they've pulled away from you, and that's their decision. So if they've pulled away from you, you don't really need them there anyway. So again, just say, been a great journey. It's, as far to this point, but shame we can't go on. I hope you enjoy yourself, and send them off with a smile. Okay, the next question: how can you tell if a man wants you or just wants sex? Now we get this one a lot. The answer is he's going to want sex. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want you. Most guys I know, they want sex. They're very sexual creatures, men. They're going to want sex, and they're going to want to know what sex is like with you, because they've, they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s now. They still want to have sex, and they want to know what it's like with you. It doesn't mean that that's all they want and they leave. Yes, you're going to be screaming, yes, it does. It does mean that, because that's what's happened. Yeah, I get it. Some guys can do that. But you've got, you're an adult. You make a decision whether you want to sleep with a guy or not. Listen, it could work for you as well. Sometimes what I've found is it's not until I sleep with someone that I really know my feelings for them as well. And for a guy, that's the weirdest thing. You can think you're really into someone until you're intimate, and then it's like a bucket of freezing cold water suddenly hitting you at the end, and you think, I don't want to be here. Or I'm not in the right place. And you don't know that and until that moment. And yes, I'm sure you're going to be saying as well, that's because men think with their appendages. And it's not. You can get caught up in the moment, everyone does. And I think women do this as well. I think sometimes it's not until those intimate moments with people where your true feelings sort of become apparent to you that you didn't know before. And it works both ways. Sometimes, you can be intimate with someone where you're going, well, this is good. But then after you go, whoa, I didn't see that coming, and then you could be more into them. So it can go both ways. But I don't think it's a case of all guys just want sex. Some guys may just be after sex. You can usually spot those, can't you? I mean, one, they're usually honest about it. Two, they'll tell you, all about their latest conquests in the first date anyway. And three, you know, the way that they message, everything they do, they've probably booked a hotel on the first night, or, the whole day. It's, was it just a coffee, or was it sort of, oh, let's go out for dinner, I'm down for the weekend, and I've booked into a hotel, so use your brains about it, be intelligent about it. And listen, I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. If people are both on the same page, grown adults, you're here to have a good time. So, enjoy yourselves. But if it's something you're worried about with a guy and he's seen you 2 or 3 times, he just probably wants to know what that's going to be like. And then that's up to you. If you keep going, no, 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 then maybe the guy won't stay around because he's going to thinking, well, if this is not moving forward, I could be just wasting my time here. So you need to be sort of clear about that as well to each other and communicate that between the two of you. And then it's up to the guy to stick around. And if you're one of those people that you want to wait 3 months before you're intimate with someone because you want to know that your feelings, that's great. But just be aware that that guy may have the same reactions that he would have had after 3 weeks in 3 months. So, just bear that in mind. It doesn't change because you waited 3 months. It's going to mean that he's going to suddenly sleep with you in 3 months and not have the same feelings that he would have done if he'd have slept with you in 3 weeks. It doesn't guarantee that, but what it does guarantee is probably you can then guarantee that maybe he was genuine in those moments, and that was suddenly something that he realised that you two just weren't right for each other. So I think this again applies to both. I've dated women that were quite open about that's what they wanted, and I've dated women that wanted to wait and then they changed their mind anyway. And I've done the same. I think you've got to think through things in a very balanced way. And that's the question for you guys. Have you ever slept with anyone where it just suddenly changed your mind about how you thought about the relationship? Okay, next question. What actually makes a man commit? Easy, the woman or the man, both ways. It's the person you're with that makes you commit. It's not about being ready for a stage. I think that's what happens in late 20s. And from talking to a lot of women that have coming out of relationships in their 40s, I think in their 20s, decisions are made about relationships based upon the relationship, not the person. It's like, he's stable, good job, have a good family, have a good life. That'd be great. And then in 15 years' time, you realize you've had all that and now you're just different people. So for me, men will commit or women will commit to the person that they want. It's all about the person. I don't think there's anything that you can suddenly do. I just think it's about you. It's about you and them, and if you're both ready and if they're ready. So if you're with a guy and he hasn't committed to you, that's for a reason. First reason is he doesn't want to. He's committed enough in his own head. That's as far as he wants to go. And he's given you the answers already. you just want more. Now, if you want more and you want more from someone else, then you need to leave. If you want to stay with this guy or girl, you've got to accept that's all you're getting and be happy with that. But that's the first one. The second thing is that maybe he wants to sort other things out and get them in place first, and he just wants to make sure. And I think, especially if people going through divorces, I think, or breakups even, I think sometimes you want to know you're clear of that. You've sorted everything out because you don't want to upset the other partner. And anyone that's new, you don't want them being effective. So what you try and do, and I know I did this, was that you try and keep everyone happy over here, keep everyone happy over there. And as a result, and I'm sure a lot of you are doing this, you run around like a bloody idiot. You're trying to keep everyone happy and it's absolutely exhausting. And you lose yourself somewhere in trying to keep this new relationship going, trying to keep, the ex-partner happy through the divorce or through the breakup so she doesn't stop you seeing the kids, or he doesn't, be an idiot about the divorce or whatever that may be. So you're trying to keep everyone happy there, everyone happy here. You're going backwards and forwards, taking people here, kids there, picking girlfriend, boyfriend up over there, and having text messages from the ex-husband, the ex-girlfriend, ex-wife that are a pain in the arse, and the new partner asks what that is. It's a nightmare, and I'm sure loads of you are going through that at the moment. And then sometimes you can't do anymore. You've got so many plates spinning. You just don't. The last thing you want is someone going, "So, are you going to commit to me?" Because you just don't feel that you've got that in you at the moment. So, if that's the case, you need to read the room in terms of know what's going on and be patient if you want to be. If you don't want to be patient, you need to get out, and you just need to be clear with the guy or the girl and just say, listen, you've got loads going on and I'm coming fifth and sixth, and I'm fifth after the dog. So you go deal with what you need to deal with over there. Once you've got everything sorted out and I can, be more of a priority, I'm never going to be your number one priority, especially if you've got kids. I get that. But I want your time when we're together. And, you might find that their behavior will change because, again, they may not realize they're doing that anyway. I know I didn't when I was accused of it. I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought everyone was hunky dory. I just thought it was me that was, losing the will to live because I was just going nuts. But that's how if you can get people to commit by sometimes just ask them. But there's not a magic formula. It's a conversation. It's about timing. It's about reading the room and knowing where the other person is and knowing what you want as well. And know what do you mean by commit? Know what you mean as well. So don't just say to someone, oh, I need you to commit to me. Because if they go to you, all right, what does that look like? For you, does it mean, well, I want us to move in, I want us to have a mortgage, a joint, but, think about what it means to you. And if you want that, be prepared to compromise as well, because that may not match up to their, version of commitment. You may have completely two different places. Okay, final question. What are men really looking for after divorce or a long-term relationship? That's a really good one. I would say I don't think they know. I really don't think they know. I think they know. I know when I came out of a long relationship, I had no idea what I wanted. I tried to date a few lovely people that I just didn't have the last relationship out of my system, and I didn't know that. And I think you don't know sometimes what you're looking for. You're just continuing. You're just going forward. And unfortunately, along the way, you can meet really good people that come along at the wrong time. And you just may be one of those people that the other person is going through and figuring stuff out. And they may not know that. And if they don't know it, you've got no chance of knowing it. So, they'll be that way until, like we said earlier, the right person comes along that makes them think everything that happened to me before was because of this person in front of me now. And it makes you, get over what you had before, because you've shut the door on that, and then you're firmly going through this new door that's opened. And maybe you're not just that new door. Maybe you're just another corridor they're walking down to get to where they're going. And it's all about you, and whether you're willing to put up with that. But you're never going to know that. And being single in midlife, you need to be brave, because you're dealing with everyone else's crap as well. And a lot of the time, you don't know you're dealing with everyone else's crap because they don't know. So you've just got to keep going with it, and that's fine. Just keep going with it, and you'll get there. And that's perfectly fine that you do that. And it's really hard to say what men are looking for. Sometimes some men will just be looking for a direct replacement, almost like, well, this fridge is broken. Give me the same model and I'll just take it away. Because what they've been used to is they've been used to being loved, being looked after, being cared for, and that's gone out of their life now. And all they want is that back in their life. Now, those guys could be great for you if that's all you want. You need to find one of those guys, because they're not worried about a lot of other things. They just want that feeling of being safe, of being looked after. Yes, you can say they just want that feeling of being mothered, but all they want is to feel safe, so they could be the right guy for you. They could be completely the right guy for you, but you might find them too needy. So know what it is again that you're looking for, and know what questions you're asking, and relate it to when that's happened to you. That always helps me. When things happen to me, I think, hold on, have I done this to someone before? Yeah, I have. Okay. And it makes you just feel more comfortable about it, I guess. But there's no quick answer to what people are looking for. And I think even if you said on the first day, yeah, okay, Jim, what are you looking for? Jim could give you a load of answers. And a lot of them he may not even know, that he's not even close to what he knows. And it could be something completely different that he ends up with. And he may think you are everything that he's looking for until you're dating for 3 months. And then he goes, oh, you're not. And that moment could come after you're intimate, because that could just bring up a load of feelings for him where he just thinks, this is not what I wanted, and that, like I said to you, that can hit them immediately, and then he can pull away, and then you're back to where you thought, well, what did I do wrong now? So if you want to know what men are really looking for, they're looking for the same thing as you, and ask yourself, do you know what you're really looking for? And when you write the things down that you're looking for, think about if anyone in your past has actually given you all of those things, and what happened with that person. Now, sometimes it's really strange that you can do this. And I think back and think, well, I can think of 3 or 4 people that gave me all of those things and more. But yeah, I didn't choose to stay with them. And that's the frustrating thing. Sometimes, you can bang your head against the wall thinking, this person I'm with is great, but why do I not want more? Why is this not enough for me? The person standing in front of me ticks every box I've got, but why do I feel like this is not it? And that's the magic thing about relationships, that you just don't know. Sometimes it's something that you just don't see. Something comes around the corner, and like I said at the start of this podcast, it just blows you away. And sometimes it may not even blow you away with fireworks and, a big bang and feelings in your stomach. It could just feel right, and And that's the wonderful thing about all of this is that you never know what's coming. You never know what the right person is. And it may not be the person that looks like the right person as much as you want it to. It may never do that. Okay, so that brings it to the end of the 5 questions. Listen, I hope they've helped. They're my opinion based on my experience, and they're also from speaking to other guys. It's a very similar story, and I don't think we're that dissimilar to how women think. I think the big difference is we communicate it a lot different, and I think we say it differently, and that's why it's like two people speaking different languages. One person taking an hour to say something, and one person taking 30 seconds to say something, but they both say the same thing. And I think it's just understanding or trying to decipher what the other person means in your language to, maybe help us along the way. But listen, guys, thank you so much for listening today and taking the time to spend with me. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you reply, make sure you follow and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening to 50 Shades and Grey. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.